So the main reason I'm making this video right now is because the new Ronin SC just came out. So of course, the new Ronin SC is meant for people with smaller, lighter, presumably mirrorless cameras, while the DJI Ronin S is still a industry standard. Buy this if you have a DSLR in general or an SLR, and it will work fantastic. Of course, there has been many new people into the gimbal world, Zhiyun, Crane, whatever, all those people, and there's always some people that say you should just use a good old-fashioned glide cam, which I'll say, good for those people. So for the DJI product stack of gimbals, where does the Ronin M slot in all of this? Because we've seen that the Ronin SC is for lighter, smaller cameras, while the DJI Ronin S is still for basically all DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. And the Ronin M has just kind of been like, where is that now? Because yes, if you have a bigger camera, like let's say for instance a C100 or C200 or even a Reda or an ARRI, it used to make really good sense to buy a DJI Ronin M or the MX, or even way back then just the DJI Ronin. But if you're dropping that much money on a camera, you'd most likely be going for something like a Movi Pro. So that leads me to the conclusion of, where does the Ronin M fit in the stack of gimbals, this product stack that DJI has, and how does it stack up against other competitors now, and is it still a valid option for people to buy? So obviously, I'm making this video because I just bought the Ronin M, and let's see if my $800 investment was complete poop. So let's first get onto the build quality, a thing that I feel like DJI is just known for. And the first thing I would have to say is metal, metal, metal. Like seriously, almost everything out of this is made of metal, and whenever it is plastic, sometimes I can't even tell that it's plastic, or it's used so sparingly that you don't notice. So even the plastic and the rubber used feels really premium. It doesn't feel chintzy or it's gonna break, but obviously it's nothing like metal because metal is metal after all. So the rubber used on the grips feels really good in the hand. It does feel like over time it would probably degrade, as with anything, but it doesn't feel like it's falling apart or it doesn't feel too stiff. It's the right amount. Inherently, since you're buying an $800 product, it makes sense that everything feels premium. So I'm just gonna slot this kind of into the build quality part of the video. The DJI Ronin M has a cooling fan. I do not know what it cools and why it's there, but it's doing something, and obviously DJI thought that it was necessary. Now, in saying that, it's not really that loud. Even if it was a dialogue scene, there is a silent mode in the app, so that if you really needed that, there you go. But if you're shooting that scene, then use a shotgun microphone, because the DJI Ronin M does make some sound. If you're really manhandling it, the motors make sound. So it's not like it's exactly even silent when it is in silent mode, and all I could tell is that it just turns off the fan. On to the ergonomics. So the first thing I have to say about the DJI Ronin M is that it's very different from all the gimbals that are on the market right now besides the Movi Pro, because most of the time it's that pedestal thing where you're holding a single long rod and then you have the actual gimbal part on the end of it. The DJI Ronin M is nothing like that. It has two handlebars that you hold on to, and my biggest complaint with that is that I can't really get the gimbal close to my body. I feel like it's constantly like I'm holding my arms out, and I can't easily get into that ninja walk stance that I have been able to with a glide cam in the past. Because I felt with the glide cam I could easily bend my knees and bring it close to me, and I felt really at home in that stance. But with the DJI Ronin M, I feel like I can't as easily get into that stance. So there's three modes to the DJI Ronin M. There's the standard mode, and then you flip it upside down, and this really helps with some of the ergonomic issues of the fact that the gimbal part is kind of underslung underneath everything. And this is helpful if you want to capture anything head level or above. which I find a lot of the time this is what I would use the DJI Ronin M in. So there are accessories out there that you can make the camera so that it's no longer flipped upside down, so that you don't have to go into post and flip all the footage, which is nice. And then of course the final mode is kind of this briefcase mode that I found it really hard to get the DJI Ronin M into this mode. It would sometimes just freak out, and even if I would put it back to normal, the gimbal would not know what to do and I would have to turn it off and turn it back on. And honestly, I don't see why this mode exists besides marketing wank. Like, really, I would just hold it on the top handle down low, and that will not just get the gimbal lower, but it's way more ergonomic in my sense. On to accessories. So since the DJI Ronin M has been out for a long time and it has gone through several iterations, I think the one I bought is the version 3, which the only discernible thing that I can see that has changed is the battery used. I might be wrong. There are a litany of amount of accessories. Clamps to put on a field monitor, or cases for it. There's so many. Right here, for instance, is my case that I bought for the DJI Ronin M. You can buy the one from DJI, but this one does just as good as that in my opinion. So of course, with all things DJI, there is an app with it, and the Ronin M comes with one. And it's easy to use, there's a ton of settings. The one thing that I have to complain about Hey, Mom.
Hey, Mommy.
Okay. Whew. So, like I was saying about the DJI Ronin M app, I wish that it had like configurable profiles. And this is not even a thing that I think is on the DJI Ronin S. And I might be wrong about that, but it's such an easy thing. Why can't I save profiles of certain settings on the gimbal? Instead of having to go through all the settings changing it, why can't I just have profiles? Like a sport mode, or, you know, why? Why? It's so simple. Let's go into the packaging. I don't know about you, but I feel like the packaging was pretty well. I wouldn't say anything, it's like Apple, but the people buying this probably aren't, you know, wanting the packaging experience. They're more interested in the thing inside rather than the experience of getting the thing inside. That being said, everything was really well secured. Everything was really well protected. The gimbal part of it, the part that actually costs the money, actually had Velcro around it so that it wouldn't bang around and move in shipping, which was a nice thing. And I actually use those whenever I store the gimbal long term. So onto accessories. You should, if not need, to buy a case for the Ronin M, because it's so ergonomically different from every other gimbal and every other piece of equipment. It's not like you can just have it lying around. So I bought a case from Nanook. You can buy one from DJI directly, but they look about the same and they cost is pretty different, so I just went for the cheaper option, and I am satisfied with it. And I can put 2 locks on here. It can float. It has a pressure adaptation valve, so if it's on a plane, it whatever does, you know, pressure so nothing gets damaged. And it keeps my gimbal safe. That's the biggest thing. I can easily put everything inside. The one thing I do have to say is that the stand is the trickiest part, because I feel like whenever I'm collapsing it, nothing's fully in place and it just barely fits. Also, the little baggie that is supposed to go on the top layer, I have too much stuff in it and it doesn't fit there, so I just put it below, which is okay. And everything has its place. The batteries have its place. Everything has its place. The charger, nothing is just banging around, which is nice. So let's go on to the gimbal performance, the biggest reason why you're buying this gimbal. So of course, the gimbal delivers smooth video as long as nothing is super complex. My biggest complaint is that this gimbal needs at least 2 operators to successfully have a good final product coming out of it. That being smooth video, because you're gonna have to have one operator holding the gimbal then probably another operator focusing the camera most likely, and then another one actually controlling the gimbal and moving it left and right with the wireless controller. Of course, this could be cut down to 2 people, and it's completely dependent on what type of move or shot you're doing. If you need focus to rack in some weird way that autofocus isn't going to do, or your camera can't autofocus well like mine. But this comes along with the price point of this gimbal. After all, you're going to probably be putting bigger cameras onto this, so that it makes sense that you'd most likely have a crew with you already. So I don't see this as much as a downside as just something that you have to work around and be aware of. So there is no sport mode on the Ronin M. It's not something that super annoys me, but is just kind of in the back of my head constantly reminding me about it, because the DJI Ronin and DJI Ronin SC both have it and allows for really quick movement, which is something that I loved about the Glide Cam. It was so tactile. If you wanted to make a quick movement, you could do it, and it was super responsive. With the DJI Ronin M, I feel like all my movements are super sluggish, and for me to get anything quick out of it, I have to really whip it. And when I do that, I feel like the motors just kind of like all of a sudden just like go crazy and then slow down to a stop. And it does not handle fast movement easily. If you're doing fast movement, I'd probably say you might as well just have the camera handheld or add some weights to it or something to help stabilize it out. This gimbal is not for that. It's for smooth movements. If you need to track someone when they're walking or something, it's not for a fight scene or capturing sports or something like that. And to add on to this kind of sport mode lacking of it, you can make the gimbal motors more responsive, but I feel like they could be even more responsive in a certain way. It's just probably, in my mind at least, I think, just something that needs to be updated through the software, and DJI could easily do. Most of the things that I feel like are the problems with this gimbal could easily be fixed with a software update. I mean, if it was a limitation with the sensors that are on board or something like that, then I could see why it doesn't have as many features as the DJI Ronin S. If DJI could have done this and they just didn't, then why are you not? You could be competing with the Movi Pro and being so more competitive in that more top tier market, or at least that middle prosumer market. Obviously, there are people out there that have cameras probably just as big as the C100 and don't want to put it on a DJI Ronin S, but don't have the money for a Movi Pro, and the Ronin M makes sense, but they don't have certain features like the Ronin S. Final notes to be said that really don't have necessarily a category to go into before we go on with the rest of the video is I love the fact that this gimbal came with 2 batteries. I love that fact. It's something that only probably prosumer level cameras or prosumer level gear come with, because they think, oh, well, one battery's dead, then we can use the new battery while the old battery that's dead can charge up. It's just like, why? Like, this is fantastic, because I would love my camera to certainly come with 2 batteries. I just bought a second one because the current battery right now is not that good. It doesn't hold a good charge. I love the fact that it came with 2 batteries. I know it's such a small thing, and people that probably bought the Ronin S was like, bruh, mine came with 2 batteries. What are you on? Another thing, since you're probably going to be carrying bigger cameras with this gimbal, and let alone the gimbal is also pretty heavy compared to a lot of the other ones, something like a Ready Rig would probably do wonders. Not just that, but it would also probably contribute to smoother shots, for the fact that it kind of takes the weight off the operator and cushions a lot of that up and down movement. And the next big thing with the Ronin M is the setup time. I think I got it under 2 minutes, and that's just assembling it. Now, of course, balancing it is a whole nother mixed bag. I have my Ronin M already fully balanced for the current setup, which is my Nikon D5500, combined with the 18-35 Sigma lens. Of course, that will change if I swap it out to my 18-55 Nikon lens or my 70-300. A lot of other gimbals, though, do it a lot quicker. Like the Ronin S basically requires almost zero assembly, and the balancing is pretty easy. Where does the DJI Ronin M slot into DJI's own product stack, but also the whole gimbal ecosystem in general? I think I have the answer for where the DJI Ronin M slots into everything. I think it's kind of in between that consumer prosumer ecosystem that is kind of niche. The biggest issue is the fact that the Ronin S can carry about 8-ish pounds, if I remember correctly, and that's pretty close to the Ronin M. So it's more of a matter of ergonomics and stuff like that. So the Ronin M is a lot easier to rig out. I can easily put a focus monitor on there, or a field monitor, whatever you want to call it, a focus system, and all these other little things that wouldn't be easily put on with a Ronin S, because the Ronin S by itself, you can get handle mods for it, but it's pretty hard to put anything substantial onto it. So to make it clear, I think if the top of the list, we would probably have professional Steadicams for, studios and stuff. Then we would have something from Movi, like the Movi Pro, and then DJI Ronin M, Ronin S, SC, and so on and so forth, with all the different kind of people that make gimbals around that price point of the Ronin S. Besides that, I think the DJI Ronin M is a niche within a niche, and it is completely dependent upon your budget, your crew, what you're shooting, and all these different little variables that you really have to think about. Now, a thing that I just remembered is I like to, in a certain way, future-proof things. And as stupid as that sounds, like, for instance, some people say, oh, I'm future-proofing my PC by buying a super overkill processor. Well, in 5 years, it's probably not going to be a super overkill processor, and you'll probably already be shopping for a new processor 2 years from when you bought the thing. But there are certain things that you can future-proof. For instance, a tripod. Like, when is a tripod going to become revolutionary? That's why I bought this tripod that I have right now from Manfrotto, because, no joke, just the head, the plate, the top of the tripod was bigger than my whole camera with its 18-55mm lens on. Now, once I got the Sigma, it doesn't look as stupid, but it still looks pretty stupid. And it's complete overkill, but this tripod will last me for years to come because I'm not using it like crazy, and it should be able to carry pretty big cameras. Same thing with the DJI Ronin M. I see myself not vlogging with it, but I see myself using it with a crew for a short film or something like that, and I wouldn't mind having to put a focus system on that because my camera kind of needs manual focus, and once you're getting to that level of filmmaking, you're probably doing manual focus at that point. Not to mention that I'm probably gonna get a bigger camera in the future, so why not have a gimbal that's ready for it? So to reiterate again, for buying a gimbal, you should think about the crew, the camera, the future camera that you're gonna be on it, rigging it out, what you're shooting it with, and the setting it's going to be in, and what you're going to have to put it in. Like, does it need to go into small places? All these things are variables that you should think about when it comes to buying an expensive piece of gear like a gimbal. So, of course, if you love this video, please hit the like button. Tell me, what am I doing wrong with the lighting right now? It's several things. I'm shooting in front of a window, first of all, because I realized how bad my lights are. And is the audio that bad? That bad. And what should I do different? Advice, constructive criticism is always helpful and always wanted. Anyways, thank you and have a nice day. So where does the Ronin M slot up? So memory card already full. Really?